Join us on the line right now. You know him, you love him, you can't live without him. The editor of the Daily Caller, co-host of Fox News Channel's Fox and Friend Weekend. I'm talking, of course, about our good friend Tucker Carlson. Good morning, Tucker.
Well, good morning, gentlemen.
All right, so look, I want to start out by talking about something that's being sort of whispered in this town. Look, we Chuck Hagel last week, before we all went on our holiday vacation, Chuck Hagel resigned. Now, it's very clear that he was sort of shoved out the door. And it's also very clear that now they're casting about to try to find a replacement for Chuck Hagel. And what they're finding is not many people want the job. And because the word coming out is that the reason Chuck Hagel walked away is because of the White House was micromanaging every single thing that the Pentagon was doing. And a lot of people are saying, why would I want to walk into that? Are we going to be able to find another Secretary of Defense who's capable of doing the job?
Well, presumably it's a gig you could fill. I mean, with unemployment this high, someone who would do it.
Yeah.
But the amazing story, I think, and the one that conservatives miss so often, I mean, conservatives are very focused on how ideological the administration is, and I think that's, it's true. But they miss just how incompetent the administration is so often. Imagine firing your Secretary of Defense without having someone lined up to replace him beforehand, and just sort of like hoping in the interim between the announcement of his firing and his departure that you'll find someone good. I mean, why would you do that? Only a child would do that, and yet they did that. And it's embarrassing to them, but it also is yet another signifier of American weakness to the rest of the world, and that's just bad. That's not helpful at all.
Yeah, that is a great point. And they rarely talk enough about the incompetence of this administration, but it doesn't stop at the Pentagon. I mean, you're starting to hear these stories now that he's into his sixth year of his, starting the seventh year of his term, Tucker Carlson. There seems to be a lot of Democrats who are starting to jump ship, even Chuck Schumer from New York over the past week about Obamacare.
Yeah, I mean, they're just not good at implementing their policies. Now, we, again, spend all our time talking about how the policies are bad, which is true, and how inefficient government is as compared to the private sector in general, and that's true. But there's something uniquely incompetent about the Obama people, and they're kind of taciturn. They don't leak that much, and so they give the appearance of competence, of sort of cool efficiency, but that's not real at all. Like, they couldn't operate a website. I know this just happened a year ago, but we've been so overwhelmed with all sorts of other awful news that you forget that these guys, they just don't know what they're doing.
The president today is going to have 3 different meetings about the events in Ferguson this past week. The first one will be a cabinet meeting focusing on federal programs that provide military-style equipment to law enforcement agencies. The second will be with young civil rights leaders to discuss challenges posed by mistrust between law enforcement and communities of color, as they put it. And then the third will bring in law enforcement officials, not to talk about the tough job they've got policing these communities, but about how to strengthen neighborhoods and coalitions. Are they not really understanding and getting the full lesson from what happened with this grand jury and what Officer Darren Wilson had to deal with?
They got the lesson. I mean, first, let me just say it's a little hard for me to take a lecture on civil liberties from an administration that is reading my Gmail. Okay, so
fair point.
Don't get all high-handed with Mr. ACLU with me, buddy. No one's trampled civil liberties like these people have, without apology, by the way. Second, they know exactly what the lesson is, and that is that the country is racially polarized and they can take political advantage of it. That was the lesson of the last election. Nobody said it out loud, but it was. Unfortunately, this is really, you don't want this, by the way, but this is the truth. In 2012, 9 out of 10 people who voted for Mitt Romney were white, and 8 out of 10 who voted for Barack Obama were members of racial minority groups. And so you really had, like, the stark divide in the country, which is, again, it's a disaster. You don't want that, but that's where we are, and they're exacerbating it. Obama is pretending that white racism is America's biggest problem, like it's 1955, an Orwell Publicist charge. And you know what I mean? Like, it's a fantasy, but it appeals to his constituency, and he's down, he's unpopular, and so he's going back to his base and using racially divisive language to do it.
It is interesting what you bring up. It's also, it's quite sad because this president, the one thing that I hoped for when this president came into office, that there could be a healing of race strife in this country.
Exactly.
It was a wonderful opportunity, and it's become exactly the opposite.
That is the whole point. I didn't vote for Obama either time, but if you had said to me, look, I'm going to raise your taxes 10%, and in exchange for that, we are going to have actual racial harmony. We're going to move beyond the anger between black and white and the balkanization among races. Is it worth it? I would say I would vote for Barack Obama if I really thought that would be the outcome. And what a bitter irony that the post-racial president has made the country or overseen a transformation of the country into something much more racially polarized than it's ever been. Ever. I mean, it's actually scary because tribal politics, ethnic politics is not resolvable. And it doesn't go away.
And today's meeting are a perfect example of what's wrong with their approach. Here's an opportunity for healing, and they're going to, as you say, take advantage of the situation.
Well, by the way, there's not one, and I'm not a reflexive supporter of law enforcement, that is for sure, and I'm not for shooting people who aren't armed. I mean, I actually am a civil liberties guy, for real. So I'm not defending the cop. I'm merely saying there's not one piece of evidence, nor has there ever been, that there was an explicitly racial component in this. Why are we all acting like this was a race crime?
Right.
We have no evidence of that at all, and yet they've jumped on that and made the point, and the president was really clear in every one of his statements, this is a problem with white racism. Really? I mean, I'm open-minded, but show me the evidence.
Where's the evidence? Yeah, no, well, listen, the president said it last week. He said people in these communities have the suspicion that they're being treated differently. So based on that, he's turning
all right, well, I have suspicion that God is mad at me when I lose at backgammon, but that doesn't mean he is. No, I'm serious, though. I mean, that is really reckless to reinforce people's racial fears when you have no evidence, and that's exactly what the president is doing because it helps him politically, and I think it's scary.
Agreed. Hey, Tucker, I was out and about all over town this weekend, doing my retail shopping, doing my part for the economy. I didn't stumble across you. Were you out there doing your Black Friday Christmas shopping?
I don't shop, Larry. I'm the right-wing anti-consumerism guy. Actually, I suspect I'm becoming like a 1970s liberal. I'm not.
Wait, so the whole Carlson family, you just macrame handcrafted items for each other at Christmas
time? We
time?
made God's eyes out of yarn and popsicle sticks. Yes, we always did.
Well, that's great. Fit the whole family up in your Birkenstocks, and I'm sure that it was a kumbaya weekend. Well, I mean, what
I can think of a lot worse.
Do you?
I used to make fun of the 70s liberals in the 70s growing up in California. As compared to the terrifying big data Google left to the progressives of today,
yes.
Give me the 70s. Bring back the Birkenstocks, man.
What are you hoping for this Christmas?
Actually, I honestly don't want any presents. I mean, of course, I want a new fly rod because I always do.
Yeah.
But other than that, no. I'm 45, man. I've maxed out on the stuff.
I got asked this question a lot over the Thanksgiving holiday. What do you want? And I honestly said, I really don't need a thing. I'm just happy with the way things are.
Wow. It's good to be Brian
the
Wilson.
Same way.
I know. I feel immensely blessed.
I would like to go on vacation for another week with my wife, but other than that, I'm good.
Well, I will send both of you my list because I've got plenty of holes to fill. I've got gaps.
You got stuff?
That's what I've got.
Well, most importantly, you need a better hat.
I haven't reached the zen that you guys have reached. All right, Tucker. It's always good to talk to you, and great seeing you on Fox and Friends Weekend, as always.